Action. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Sessions with Courtenay Pollock. Hey, Courtney.
Hello, Heidi.
Well, welcome. It's Super Bowl today.
I know, I'm missing
know.
it.
Yeah, we're filming instead.
I can see the replays.
There you go. So we're just gonna go right into it, guys. Courtney, take it away.
Thank you, Heidi. Wonderful. I'm in Brazil, and I have, I think I talked about the road trip from João de Dias at Brasilia. Not Brasilia, it's actually Abadiânia is the little town where the João de Dias complex is. And the capital of that state in Brazil is Goiânia. And that was where the nearest gym was, which I'd occasionally go. I go at least a couple of times a week down there to this gym and fight off the women. Well, there's a really sad thing about. I mentioned this in the last episode. I think about the Brazilian women. They're not allowed to own property. They don't really have any rights. They're just chattel. And you can't just leave the country. You have to have sponsors and visas and stuff to leave, because the odds are most of them wouldn't come back. They'll do anything to stay out, to stay away, and have a free, independent life. And I don't think that situation's probably changed at all, since I was there 18 years ago, whatever. And I did the road trip down from the João de Dias. I crossed over to Alexandria. It's a seaside town. It's a tourist place, but it was too early in the season to be opened up yet. So it was a bit boring. I stayed a day or so, and then I continued, and it was on the coast, so I continued straight down the east coast to Rio de Janeiro. And Rio de Janeiro is just a really dense, massive sprawl of over 20 million people. This is back 18 years ago when I was there. It was just, and it was a dangerous place, for tourists or for anybody really, But as long as you stay on the coast where all the big hotels are, that's much more secure. But they advise you not to go in from the coast to eat, because you may never come back. And as good as the food is, it's all kind of the same. There are different degrees of wonderful fresh food, but pretty much everywhere you go, it's a variation on the same theme of just help yourself to all of these wonderful, healthy little dishes, multiple choices, but it doesn't really vary much. It's not like you can go in and order a filet mignon with all the trimmings. It's like, but I found a McDonald's. I found a McDonald's inland, and I would just, go and dine there because it was like, I just wanted a hamburger and fries and a milkshake. And I was like, yeah. Then I'd feel like, just one of those awful American tourists. But, it was just, plus, you're kind of breaking the rules. I think I mentioned that I found the only hotel that was actually on the sands across the coast highway from across all the hotels are across the coast highway from the beaches, and they're under there are tunnels that go underneath the freeway at different intervals to get access to the beach. You can't walk across an 8-lane freeway, which made no sense to me. All these big grand hotels, they're not on the beach. There's I brought it up on my computer, and it's like just a wall of hotels across, you know, it's a 6-lane highway, but even so, it's really busy, and but I think I mentioned where I was staying on the Ipanema beach, right close to there's a rocky promontory where it conjoins with the Copacabana beach. They're both magnificent beaches, and on the point of on this rocky promontory, there was a big weight set up, just free weights and bars and things like that. So I could go and have a workout each morning, and then go plunge in the ocean, and then get my stuff, because my hotel was just steps away. And I had the front room overlooking the beach, the room right over the restaurant of the hotel. Because it was early in the season, I made a deal and got this place for really a small amount of money by the week. And I set up on the beach with a chair, and a big umbrella, and a cooler of drinks, and a chair, and there was just miles of golden sands, and there was nobody. And then around 11, starting to warm up, and then the first girls that show up, they always show up in little groups. Never saw a guy. It was great. They were just these, and they're young, lovely, they're really beautiful women down there. Oh my gosh. I mean, they're real blue-eyed natural blondes. A lot of them are still here. Oh, that's the Nazis. Oh, did I say that? A lot of that, you know, after the Second World War, there's a big exodus to Argentina and Brazil, among other places, and bringing over, you know, priceless artworks and all this plunder. You know, and of course, you know, getting all the best women, you know, there were a lot of natural blue-eyed blondes in Brazil. But like they say, they don't let them out because they wouldn't come back. So anyway, I'd sit there, you know, every now and then it gets too warm, I go plunge in the ocean, swim a bit. And then the first group come, and all these miles of beaches, and they set up right next to me. I go, hi. And then some more show up, you know, hello. And pretty soon there's me, and then these little parties of all these girls, and they kind of check over. It's like an island with surrounded by beautiful women. It's like, wow, you know, I must be really something. But I knew it wasn't that. I knew it was nothing to do with, you know, I could have been, you know, a total Adonis, you know, and a superstar. It wouldn't have been any different. They would have all been just setting up around this, or I could have been, you know, butt ugly. And but they just want to find a man, you know, from outside Brazil, to get him out of Brazil. They'll, you know, it's like, it's sad, you know. Of course, you can have fun, but, you know, you don't make any promises or, you know, set up any expectations or anything like that. And I make a point. I mean, it's like, I wouldn't ever want to take advantage of anybody's situation. So I'm, you know, I'm the gentleman. Every now and then I might invite one of the girls to dine with me. And maybe, you know, she just wants to stay over, but there's no expectation of, you know,
marriage.
Anything. I said I can sponsor you, but I can't, you know, I might not be there when you get there. Anyway, all kidding aside, you know, it was a wonderful experience, and during the course of the day, there was at least, you know, 20, you know, individual women, or even in twos, would come and proposition me.
Whoa.
Yeah, I mean, You know, they were desperate to get out, and you know, gosh, it was hard to,
Beating them off.
it was
Beating
like
the
beating them
women
off with a
off.
stick. But I had fun, and I really, you know, of course, it's the season's going to heat up, and then my suite at the hotel is going to get super expensive, and I had no interest in going over to the big hotels across the big road and being, you know, a tourist amongst tourists. But for the while that I had that place to myself, it was absolutely super. Now I wanted to, when somebody I met inside, he said he was from Belize, and he was really well connected with the government in Belize, and we kind of became friends, and you know, as much as you do inside. And he gave me his name, contact number, and he said, "You call this number in Belize, and it's part of the government, and you give my name and introduce yourself, and they'll fix you up." And I said, "You're fixing me up how?" And they said, "Oh, they'll you know, they get your job, they'll get your passport, they'll get all this stuff." So I get to I set up a phone call, which isn't, you just don't go into a box of dial a number. You actually have to go through an exchange and all that stuff, you know. But it was doable, and I did that, and I get this person on the line, and then there's another person gets on the line with them, and I introduce myself and say I'm a friend of so and so, and they ask a few questions, and then they say, "Well, you have a cultured speaking voice, and you know, obviously educated, and if you come recommended by this person, you know, we would love for you to come here." And I said, "Well, what's my expectations? You know, I don't really know what, you know, I would love to come to Belize. I just don't know what to." They said, "Don't worry about anything. We'll get you a nice government job, a beautiful home, you know, on the ocean, and a good salary and a passport, and you'll be made." I was like, "What's the catch?" Well, you know, who knows? But they said, "Well, we need educated English people. You know, somebody with a good English speaking voice, you know, as a rep, and to deal with certain things. And it's not you don't have to have your qualifications, you know, just being bright and having the right speaking voice, essentially." And obviously, they said, "What were you inside for?" And I said, "Growing pot." And they went, "That's not even a crime. So yeah, just come on over." So anyway, I go to a travel agency and say, "Yes, I'd like to go to Belize from here." And they said, "Okay, no worries. Yeah, all flights fly into the United States and then go down to Belize." I said, "Well, I don't want to do that." They said, "Well, that's the only way to do it." And I said, "Well, no, of course not. You know, there's got to be local, you know, stuff that just goes to Belize. I mean, it's just like, there it is on the map. Look, it's just like you go all the way up to the United States and all the way back to Belize. That makes no sense at all. Belize is like a third of the distance to these places in the United States." They said, "Well, that third of a distance is still an awfully long way, and there aren't direct flights." I said, "Can you find me a way to get into Belize without going into the United States and changing planes?" Because I couldn't do that. You know, I'm likely to get arrested and incarcerated because I have been deported, not allowed back in. You know, and to come in, you know, brazenly, just to change planes, it's enough of an excuse for them to, anyway. So, am I boring you?
No.
Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry. Anyway.
Carry on.
She said, well, there is a way. She said, give me, 20 minutes, half an hour. And I went, she said, this person will make you a coffee of your, everywhere you go in Brazil, if you have to wait a minute, they'll offer you a coffee and they'll brew it to your liking, and it's the best coffee ever, anywhere. I'd never tasted real coffee until I had coffee down there. And, I mean, it's, what we get up here is like, out of 10, it's about a 2 compared to the real good coffee that they have. And they make it in this thing where there's a globe and a tube that goes down and the heat draws it up, and it's man, it's like, it's like art, the way they make coffee. Every evening I'd have, so good. Anyway, she comes back. She says, well, okay, well, you can get there, overland, so to speak. It's not really overland. It involves about 3 weeks and 12 flights. I said, it's right there. She said, well, right there is like, you got to go to here, here, and here, and here, and all the way around to there. And, there's no reliability on the timetables. And she said, and it'll cost you about 10 times as much. Plus it's 3 weeks, and it's hazardous. I said, can I drive there? I mean, it's just there. She said, you wouldn't last a day. Out there in your own little car? Nah. On your own? No. I said, are we in the Wild West? She said, oh, it's worse than that. You don't have a gun. Anyway, I couldn't get to Belize. I thought, well, I'll go back to England, and I'm sure I can get into Belize direct from England some way without having to go through the United States. And I still don't know if that's true or not anymore. But I get back to England, and I decided that I wanted to check out British Columbia, because I really enjoyed the time I had, the kayak trip I had, following the coast up the west coast, the west side of Vancouver Island. We landed in Victoria and traveled up and kayaked the little islands up there, and it was exotic and beautiful. People were so friendly and lovely, and they really valued the American dollar. And you down in the States, you give a $5 tip for lunch, and they don't even acknowledge that you left them anything. You give them $2 in Canada, and they're all over you. Well, at least it used to be that way. Anyway, so I was back in England. I think I'd overstayed my welcome at my mother's house. She said, well, we have cousin Roger coming to stay with his wife, and we host them each year, and you're just going to have to leave, dear. And I said, that's all right, Mother. You can kick me out any time. I'll just pack my stuff and be gone. And
the violins are playing.
Anyway, I said, well, it's definitely time to be gone. So I booked a flight out to Vancouver. I bought a return ticket because I didn't want to be denied entry because I didn't have a ticket back. I was going in. And I knew somebody, I had contact with somebody in Vancouver that I had met inside. And he was actually a decent chap, and he and his girlfriend were living in Vancouver, and they put me up for a while I kind of figured out the lay of the land, so to speak. Coming into Vancouver airport, I come off and go into customs entry, and he puts my passport up on the screen, and looks at it. Never looks at me. He may have glanced at me as I approached his station, but I'm like, when I did full spread of time in the United States, I could have applied to get transferred to England and probably done half the time, but I didn't want to have a record in England. And so I did the full stretch and got over there. And I think I mentioned that there were authorities waiting for me when I got off the plane, but they were very polite. And this lady officer, greeted me, apologized for holding me up, and we just want to verify that you're the deportee that we're waiting for, and asked me a few questions and all that. And I said, I did extra time. I did a full spread of time there. I could have saved myself some years if I'd come to England, but I didn't want to have a record here. And she said, oh, you don't have a record here. No, that you don't. You've, whatever she said, it was just part. She said, but they have different laws than we have. Even in England, it's illegal, but it would have just been a smack on the wrist, right? Anyway. Going into Canada, he puts the passport up on the screen, and it's like he's looking at it. I'm dressed up in very English with a sports jacket, and I have a little lapel pin that's a maple leaf flag, like
Why not?
Why not? And so everybody's going that way, and he said, step into that room over there. And I went, okay, I'm in secondary. I step over into this room, and it's just a big room. There's a table over there, and there's a line. You go up, and there's this one guy in there, and he's kind of wandering around the room, and I go up, and I just toe the line. I just stand there and check this guy out, and he's totally tweaking. He is just so tweaking, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is perfect. And then these custom agents come in, and they got my luggage, and they put it up on the table, and they go, I walk off the line and go over, and they said, welcome to Canada, Mr. Pollock. Give me my luggage. They don't even open it, and I'm out. And God knows what happened to the tweaker. He was my savior. So anyway, I came in really easily, and met up. The friend was waiting for me at the airport, the guy that I had met inside, and he takes me back to his apartment where his girlfriend is, and they're a lovely couple. They really are, and they have a lovely dinner waiting, and I spend a week or two there, and he takes me around, shows me the Fraser Valley, and en route I found an old Cadillac in a car lot, and I bought the old Caddy, cleaned it up, and it looked beautiful. And now I'm exploring, but I realized the Fraser Valley, it's got all these little neighborhoods, but they're not like communities, they're not, it's just a big sprawl. There's just disconnected, and it's like, it's a desert out there. You all these people, and there's no real community or center, and downtown Vancouver, overlooking the bays and everything, it was lovely. I didn't really want to be up in an apartment, plus they're really expensive. So I take a ride on the ferry out to Victoria, and Victoria is gorgeous. What a beautiful little town. And of course the downtown is the Parliament building right there on the waterfront. And this waterfront of the old Victoria, the Empress Hotel, named after Victoria, the Queen Victoria. And it was charming. And again, though, it was more expensive than I could afford for the style of living I wanted. I wanted to live on, with a water view, but waterfront ideally. And so I continued up Vancouver Island and took the coast road up, and there's one little village or hamlet after another, and they're really delightful and charming, but they're really kind of disconnected from anything. They're very small. There's not and plus you're just on a corridor that runs up island. There is a big highway, it's a beautiful highway, I mean, you can just like put your foot down and go. It's not quite an autobahn because there are speed limits. But, you know, there's only a speed limit if you get caught. But anyway, so I go all the way up and I go, well, I kind of ran out of towns. I got to Campbell River, which is above the town of Courtenay, spelled like my name. I go into the town of Courtenay, I go to the government buildings and I say, hello, yes, I'm inquiring to see where, you know, the name of your town came from, because it's the same as my name. And they said, I don't know, get out of here, you know, do you have any business here? I said, well, I'm here to, what? I said, you don't even know the derivation of the name of your town and you're working. I said, okay. And then I drove around the town a bit and went, nah. So I went all the way back down to Victoria and got the ferry all the way down, back over, and drove back up to Vancouver and stay with my friends another day or so, and then decided to come up the Sunshine Coast and took the ferry out of Horseshoe Bay, and it goes to the fjords, essentially. There's just that. Now, the Sunshine Coast is actually part of the mainland. Apart from there are fjords, of course, and the further north you go, the more intense the fjords are until you get up into Desolation Sound, which is gorgeous. I mean, there are some, you know, a lot of billionaires have great spreads up. They have islands. They have, you know, it's like, it is really exotic and gorgeous. You know, they've got their own helicopters and big boats, yachts, big mansions and stuff. You know, some of them you can only go into in helicopter, you know, and it's like, you know, but that's, and, but, so I thought, well, you know, this is exciting. You get a ferry and you get off the ferry and you'll wend your way up, and then you have to, you know, and eventually I stopped at a few places like Roberts Creek and Gibson's and inquired about rentals and checked a few places out, but I kept on going up, and then eventually the road ended and there's another ferry, and I'm committed. I'm going as far as it goes, and that ferry from Earl's Cove goes across to Sultry Bay, which is the ferry that serves the Sunshine Coast up to Powell River, which is the biggest town up there. But en route, well, before you get to Earl's Cove, you go through some other townships and things, but, you know, again, it's a corridor as far as I'm concerned. But I get to Powell River, so I'm coming in on the last ferry, and it's like 5 o'clock, and the sun is still high, and it's blue skies, and it's just perfect temperature, and I'm out on the prow of the boat, and I was just getting higher and higher. The vibe was just, I was like, oh yeah, this is it. And I landed at Sultry Bay, and it's beautiful rainforests, and I start driving up the Sunshine Coast, and it's a nice, easy, winding road, and eventually I drive into the little hamlet of Powell River, which is a mill town. In fact, it was the biggest paper producer in the world for 50 years. It served the First and Second World War, and for all kinds of paper products, including things that had to do with armaments and, you know, packing cartridges, stuff like that. And but it was the biggest mill or producer anywhere on the planet, and for over 50 years, Powell River was the highest per capita income city in Canada for 50 years. I mean, people don't even know that. They don't even remember that anymore. And that all because of the mill. And but anyway, I drove in. It was pretty run down. Every third building was closed up on the main street. The businesses, houses were dirt cheap. It was still charming, but it was like the mill had been, you know, downgrading, and from, you know, 3,000 down to like hundreds. over the years, but it was still the biggest business in town. I think they had about 450 people at that time when I pulled in. But that's a far cry from 4,000 or 5,000 or whatever, however many it was at its peak. Anyway, I found a place. I spent one night in a motel, and right in the center of the little marine, the main downtown on the waterfront, kind of. There was a little, like a 7-Eleven, just a convenience store, and I got the local newspaper, and I find a rental. And the rental happened to be right across the street from the convenience store, and made an appointment for the next morning, 8 o'clock in the morning. I stayed at the motel, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, I meet up with this guy at this place, and he's like, it's a duplex. I got the bigger part of the duplex. It's got ocean views. It's walking distance to everything, and. He said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I'm a writer." I had to say something. I was writing. I can write.
Right words.
Anyway, so he says, "Well," he said, "it's a small place, but it's 2-bedroom, and it's got washer dryer, and it's just it's 3 minutes from the trails." And I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." He said, "Well, when's your furniture coming?" I said, "Well, how much is it?" And he said, I was going to ask 600. How about 450? It's just you." And I was like, $450 a month? Yeah. I was like, wow, yes. He said, "When's your furniture coming?" And I said, "There's just me and my car and a suitcase of clothes. That's it." He said, "Well, I'm doing a garage sale. Would you like to come and look?" And I said, "Yeah, let's go." So we go. He had everything I needed to furnish that house from top to bottom, including linens, bed linen, tableware, pots, everything. I didn't need anything. Futons, couches, chairs, kitchen, everything. And I said, "Well, how much for enough for $100?" I was like, "Well," he said, "Well, I like the idea of having an author, rent one of my houses." I said, "Well, I'm not quite published yet." Anyway, he was delightful, and his wife is delightful. And so I set up there, and for a pretty small amount of money, and started doing my tie-dyes again. But at that time, we're over 30 minutes.
Oh,
Time goes when you're having fun.
exactly. Well, we'll pick it up
Okay.
next time. Thank you so much, Courtney, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're getting close to wrapping things up.
I think so.
Yeah, but I think we've got some other ideas coming down
There
the
is
pipe
yes.
for Sunday sessions.
Right.
But to keep you guys involved. So remember, like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon. Thanks, Courtney.
Thank you, Heidi.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.